We are back. Zach survived his vacation, his cruise. He did not he didn't get kidnapped or anything like that. He made it back.
No pirates were involved in this cruise.
I have full-on internet, so it's all good. It's all good. I was setting this up.
We both made it out on the other side of Christmas pretty well, didn't we?
Yeah, I forgot how to set all this up, so I had to remind myself how this works. I took 10 days off. I guess I did podcasts this weekend on the Bears by myself. And Zach, the episode I did right after the game, it was 45 minutes long by myself. Because I just was pissed.
Okay.
I was pissed off.
Bad. I mean, hey, I gotta applaud you because there's I don't think there's much more you can add when you know what the outcome of the season is going to be. You know what's ahead for the offseason, and you know that this team is clearly not playing for their if they're playing for their coach, they sure as hell ain't showing it. That's the best way I can put it. So or playing for themselves.
No, and I said this to you weeks ago, and so far I've been proven right, is that the Bears are not going to win another game. I don't remember when I said it, but at some point I said they may not win another game.
No, you brought this up.
So far I have been right. It might have been the Patriots or the Green Bay Packers weeks. I think I said it. They may not win another game. And they have proven us correct. What are we, on a 9-game losing streak? Something like that?
Yeah, it's 9-game losing streak. And it hasn't looked close since the changeover to Thomas Brown. I know there's some people that are trying to equate it as, well, if Thomas Brown was up in the box, then maybe it's different there, and maybe he's only good at like seeing the whole field, not on the sideline. But like, I'll be honest, it's not really. I don't even. Well, and I'll be frank. It's not really a coaching issue. It just feels like all these players have the current roster looks like it's just given up. It knows what's coming, and I think quite frankly, it doesn't like unless they're down, the game plan's not solid when they start out. We kick off a game right now.
Well, that was my one of my big rants on one of the two I did, the only time I was able to hop on. And I don't know if it resonates with people. It was, what's the motivation now? Like, that's the toughest part as a coach when you're getting players to go, is when you're not in the playoffs, you're not even there. You're on an 8-game losing streak at the time before they lost to the Lions. It's, what's the motivation? And I said motivation is different from high school to college to the pros. I said the number one motivating factor should be you're getting paid millions of dollars to play a football game, where you have people like us and people with worse jobs that have to get up and go to it every day no matter what. Like, that's their motivation, is to pay bills, do this, do this. The other motivating factor should be, now your mission should be, let's try to ruin everybody's season. Like, the Lions were going to the playoffs no matter what, but let's take advantage of the injuries. Let's send them on a 2-game losing streak. Maybe that's what starts them to lose some games. That should be a motivating factor. The other motivating factor is, think about the fans. And this is what I don't think people realize is, like, the Chicago Bears players, without the fans, you wouldn't have a job. McCaskey's, you wouldn't have all this money. And they were playing, during the holidays. So I said, I want everybody to stop and think about this. And even like today, they're at home versus the Seahawks. Think about the people that have paid all that money to come to a game. What if somebody saved up all year, and this is their Christmas present to their kid, their very first Bears game? They had to save up, spend all that money. Like, that can happen, right? You never know. Even if the team sucks, that's the thing about the Bears. Even when they suck, people still show up. And that's why I think the McCaskeys are okay just being like okay. But I want people to think about that, because I remember saving up, went to an Indianapolis Pacers game because the Lakers were in town. This was many, many years ago. And it was going to be my first time seeing Kobe Bryant play. And I was super excited, big Kobe fan. And I remember a day or two before, he rolled his ankle in a game. So we drove to the place. Man. It said that he was questionable to play. But I'm like, I was going to be very bummed out if he didn't play. But I couldn't blame him. I was going to be able to still see Steve Nash, Dwight Howard, and all that stuff. We're sitting there waiting for the game to start. All of a sudden, it says Kobe Bryant has decided that he is going to play. He plays the first quarter. He can no longer play. He was hobbling around. He took himself out because he's like, I can't perform. They asked him about it afterwards, and he said, I have to think about the fans that drove to Indianapolis to watch the Lakers and watch me play. I had to give them something. So he gave them the first quarter so that he's like, that's what I did. So the Bears, like as players, you would think that would motivate you. Like I have to put on a show for these people that are paying for the streaming service, that are paying big money to come to the game, because that's the difference between like high school. College is almost the same now with what's going on there.
It's getting there, yeah.
Bears, even some of you Bears that have these contracts, you would also think that if you know you haven't played well, even though you have 3 years left on your contract, they could still get rid of you. So you would think like, hey, I'm playing to show that I can play. So there's a lot of, to me, those are the motivating factors. And I thought that would happen against the Lions. Not saying the Bears were going to win, but we're just looking for competitiveness. We're looking for you wanting to be out there. And we don't see it consistently. It always happens the third quarter. Ever since Thomas Brown took over, besides the 49ers game, it's like the third quarter. It's like, hey, remember, I can still, Caleb Williams, I can still kind of play. The defense, hey, I can still kind of do this. And the thing that's so confusing, what did the players say before Matty Eberflus was fired? Oh, Thomas Brown brings us energy. He gets us ready to go and everything else. Where is it? Like, I'm not blaming all on Thomas Brown because now it has to go on to the players, I would assume. Like, hey, now, okay, you got rid of the problem. You got rid of the problem or both problems. Your play on the field now, this is on you. Like, this is all on you. Yes, Thomas Brown's got to figure out how to get them going because you're still getting paid to do a job. But now it's all on the players. Like Cole Kmet, you're not being a leader. Caleb Williams, your rookiness is showing. DeAndre Swift, you're not earning up to your money. DJ Moore, your body language sucks. Keenan Allen finally showed up.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he finally stepped up. Like, nobody on defense wants to step up and be that person. So it's just this big problem that's led to this 9-game losing streak. And it's been just, we're ready for the offseason. I'm ready for the offseason. Get through these 2 games and just get out.
We're almost there. It's approaching very quickly. We have to get an extended waiting period to then see. Well, I'll be honest. We might have a Green Bay game where. Actually, I take that back. What am I kidding? It's a rivalry game. They always play us, even if it's no chance they can move up into the seeding. So, I digress. But nonetheless, so we're get an extended wait. Hope is though we can get at least one more win to kind of feel good about ourselves to end the year. And quite frankly, as much as you can argue that maybe Green Bay sits players or something in their final matchup of the season against Chicago, because it's going to look like, unless Minnesota, bear in mind, drops a game this week, the Packers really have nothing to play for at that point. They're locked in. They're basically going to try and stay ahead of Washington at best.
Yeah, there'll be a wild card though, right?
No, either way, they're going to be a wild card team. They can't win the division, so they
still might play guys. See, that's going to be the decision: is do we play guys to stay hot? It's going to be the Peyton Manning thing, right? Peyton Manning always seemed to be in that mix of like, do we sit them a game? Do we want Peyton Manning to get hurt? Do we want them to get hurt? Since it's a rivalry game, they might just throw them out there and be like, let's just stomp them.
Well, they might. That's what I'm going to be wondering. So right now, I like Seattle's kind of the last, I think, true winnable game on the schedule now. And I mean, they're not. I won't say that Seattle's a slouch. I'm just going to say that Seattle is very unpredictable. You can have a game like last week where they come in against Minnesota, and if it wasn't for a good, really honestly, an incredible series by Sam Darnold, who, my God, Kevin McConnell and company have turned that man into an actual dynamic weapon again. If it wasn't for that and a really good defensive stop, you can see the Seahawks walking away and getting a win on the Vikings, and it feels like having possibly an upper hand or neck and neck with the Rams. Now it's their kind of backs against the wall. They got to go into Chicago. Chicago has nothing to lose, but the Seahawks, again, depends on what you get every week. Do Do you get a Geno Smith that's going to throw a pick or two and, looks like a pud? Do you get a guy that's going to throw 3 touchdowns like he did last week? We're going to find out. Credit, Eric Washington hasn't exactly given me confidence that they're going to slow any of that down. And even with Kenneth Walker being out, again, which that man needs an offseason, by the way, yes. Zach Carbonet is not a slouch. And honestly, throw any running back behind a team right now, it just seems like Chicago's run defense is nowhere in the existence of a reality at this point. No,
they're not. And not even the secondary is playing well. Like, at least we've said this a million times, at least we had something to lean on, right? And it's consistent of play.
I'm wondering how the game's going to go with not only Smith and Jigba, but I mean, get Tyler Lockett out there as well. It's not going to be good.
And if you can't get
pressure, doesn't feel like it's going to be good. Can they get pressure? Good question.
And we've seen the song and dance before. If they want to lock up Metcalf, like we locked up Jefferson with the Vikings before, who else gets open and does some damage? And that's kind of thing. If we can't get pressure on Geno Smith consistently, if he decides to show up and play, the Seahawks are playing for something, right? Like they're playing to fight. They're fighting for their playoff life. So as much as
they have to win, because realistically the only way they can get in is they got to hope for losses, but they also have to be able to play next week against the Rams for the division. So, they have to win this week to then go and play LA for the division title next week.
So we could, I kind of said the same thing. The Bears have nothing to lose, right? They should just go out and ball out, but we haven't seen it. The Seahawks motivating factor is we want to make the playoffs. We want to make a statement. So we want to come out and execute and do the things we need to do against a struggling Bears team. Like we want this. Like, they're going to be motivated, because it's not like they have it. It's different than the Green Bay Packers. Green Bay Packers are going to have it locked up. They're going to be ready to go. The Seahawks, on the other hand, yes, they need some help, but they're going to control what they can control and say, let's go out, run the football, short passing game to make Geno Smith comfortable, and do these things and destroy the Bears. Like, not even score-wise. They want to out-physical them. They want to take – I guarantee that's what's about to happen. And I used to say, they're playing at home. They're going to be fine. Psh, it doesn't matter now. The way the Bears – like, I had no confidence in the Bears the last couple of weeks. And even today, and I'm jumping ahead, I don't. Like, it's just something that I just don't have faith in them trying to do something. Like, I know Caleb Williams showed some promise there at times versus the Lions. It comes later in the game. I don't know why it takes so long. I don't even know if Thomas Brown is fully calling the plays, because they bring the OC up, quote unquote, wherever the hell his name is, to the podium all the time and talk about it. So I don't even know who's calling plays. I'd love to say it's Thomas Brown. No clue. I should go in and call plays, because it wouldn't be any worse. I don't know what our defense does half the time now. I do miss that part with Matt Eberflus in the defense. I missed that part of it, but I don't even know. Like, I can't even sit here and tell you who's the key factors. Our O-line doesn't stay healthy. We don't have a downhill running back. Roschon Johnson has disappeared from the face of the earth.
Nowhere in the game plans anymore. It's the DeAndre Swift show. So
he does not run downhill. And I laughed at this. I tweeted this right before Olin Kreutz did. They ran a GT play, and for people that know, GT is guard, tackle, pull. Guard's job is to kick out or to wrap. If he kicks out, then the tackle wraps underneath of him and gets up. It's a gap scheme. They ran it. DeAndre Swift got the ball. He was right off the tackle's ass. He just needs to follow him up the field. Even if it's a 3-yard gain, that's still what you want to do. He freaking bounces it out and gets tackled. And people are like, what? Why is he getting tackled? And I tweeted, I was like, follow the tackle up the field. When you bounce it, there's nobody out there blocking for you. That's why it's a gap scheme. I tweeted it, and then literally like 15 seconds later, Olin Kreutz tweeted something similar. And I'm like, oh, me and Olin Kreutz are on the same wavelength. Here we go.
Oh, man.
But it's like DeAndre Swift is not that downhill gap scheme runner. He does it from time to time, Like, he wants to make the flashy play. He wants to be out. He wants to do this. Roshan Johnson is nowhere to be found. Your only other gap scheme runner you got rid of, which was Khalil Herbert. Like, so now you don't have it at all. So people think I'm crazy when I say you're in the market for a running back. I think you are in a market for another type of running back. After the O-line, D-line's taken care of, you have to find another running back.
See, but that's where you got to be careful. Is like you know that's not. It's still, even with some of that, even with that inconsistent performances this year, that still is not even the highest priority on the list.
You know? I know it goes
O-line. Like, can you imagine how much I wish we had the O-line fixed to where I could be like, maybe Ashton Genty slides to us and we can have a chance of landing him. No,
in order, it's O-line, D-line / linebackers, running back. Everything else seems to be okay. And I'm not even saying a starter running back. Like, you need to find another one that is good enough to run downhill. Or trade Swift. I don't even care at this point. Trade him, trade his contract, try to get something, work some magic. I have no idea. Because you're right, that's so far down the list. But it just pisses me off at the times that the O-line will have things blocked with how much they're struggling, and Swift makes the wrong decision. And then people blame the O-line. And I'm like, no, that particular run play is Swift's fault. This other particular run play is Swift's fault. Like, that stuff just starts to piss me off when I watch this. And I'm like, okay, but we paid him all this money, so it's his show. And that's what scares me about, because what they are trying to run the football, but they're kind of at a loss where, like, hey, we're running this gap scheme and telling you to follow this person and do this, but you refuse to do it. So then we try to run outside. We're not good enough to block outside. So this is kind of where we're stuck. And that's why the last game you saw Caleb Williams throwing it a lot more, because they were down, but also because they just couldn't do it. They were like, well, we don't have a running back that's going to do it, so we're going to have to pass the ball. And when Caleb Williams has to pass it more than 30-some times, it doesn't go well. It's not meant for that.
Yeah.
You missed a lot of my rants, but this is what's been built up over this time.
Why not? I knew I was going to come back to some stuff, so trust me, I've been waiting. And I mean, to be fair, I was able to keep up pretty well. The cruise that I was on, it did play both games, and I got or sorry, not both, but I did get to watch the Vikings game next to Vikings fans, by the way. So I had to listen to Skull Vikings chants the entire time. They much like my family does the bear down like one when they score a touchdown. For those that don't know, they do the Skull Vikings like celebration for TDs, and they have their own fight song. So like we had to sit there and listen to a family of like 7 do that every touchdown on Monday Night Football.
There wasn't a lot of bear down in that game. There was not a lot of
No, we did it, but like keep in mind this has been the Bears' experience as of late. Get down really early, start to look somewhat like we had a game plan in the third and kind of fourth quarter, and then realize it's way too late. That's been the game plan. Honestly, post Eberflus firing is mostly that. So, par for the course, quite frankly. I was trying to look, speaking of third and fourth quarter, I was trying to find this. I know ESPN has it, but I can't find the breakdown. A lot of talk has been about the Caleb Williams treatment in the media, as well as stat watching from people. I'm curious your thoughts, because I don't know where this came from. I gotta find this, but if you've seen it, Caleb Williams' third quarter stats and like fourth quarter stats, they are very different than the first half, and it's caused a lot of stir online about, is it that they're down and he just starts lighting it up because they have nothing to lose, or is this a good thing? Your thoughts, Steve?
I think it's they're down, and so he's just gonna let it ride, I think. And again, they get put into those passing situations. And so they are going to pass it more when they're down, because if their game plan, which I don't know what the fuck their game plan has been the last couple of weeks.
Don't ask me that, man. I got nothing. I got nothing for you.
Like, I don't know if this is what you're looking for. I'm looking like First quarter, he's 53 of 85. Fourth quarter, he's 102 for 157.
Mm-hmm.
Fourth quarter within 7, like the score is within 7, he's 26 of 42. Second quarter, he's 90 for 147. Third quarter, 68 for 115. So it's big time difference.
Yep.
His yards, second quarter, 1,054 yards. In the fourth quarter, 988. Third quarter, 725. First quarter, 494. So you could just see how gradually he gets better. So
Yes.
I think it's a mixture of both. I think I think there's 3 reasons. Number one, they get down, so they feel like they have to push the envelope and tell them to pass. Okay. The second thing is he shows his rookiness. I do think that it takes time for him to try to see what the defense is doing live, get a feel for the game. Number 3, it kind of goes with their down. They just don't run the ball well. So I think they're just putting him into those situations. Now, some of those are broken plays, him making a play. The other thing about Caleb Williams that I just saw, and I think you retweeted it, was they're saying that Caleb Williams isn't doing anything spectacular. He's not doing anything that other quarterbacks don't do.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
I see where, and this was the 670. Somebody on there was saying this. I didn't want to listen. Some of these things I don't listen to. I just see the caption. I'm like,
watch it be Dan Bernstein or someone like that.
No, it was somebody I don't even. It was somebody that's not
No, not Danny boy, huh? Okay.
And they're saying he's not we keep talking about how good he is, and we keep talking about this. He's just doing average things. And so as Bears fans, we think it's amazing because it's average. And I see both sides of this. I'm going to talk about both sides. Number one, yes, maybe we're not used to seeing this. So as Bears fans, we're like, oh my God, he's finally we have a quarterback that can do these things. But I'm also he does make incredible throws when the pocket breaks down. He gets the lines that strike. Mm-hmm. There are good things that he does. But again, it's kind of like the Justin Fields blinders. People kept saying Justin Fields was an amazing quarterback, and they kept getting confused with amazing quarterback and him just being an athlete. All the big-time run plays that he made, that's just him being an athlete. Justin Fields is a fantastic physical specimen, and I've said that over and over. We also kind of have our rookie blinders on, where he's still a rookie. We have to remember that he's still a rookie, and he is making rookie mistakes. The way he's reading the defense, the way he's not getting to all the open guys. He has problems hitting the deep ball from time to time. There's times where he doesn't fill the pocket out well. Those are all rookie things. And I am putting blame on him for that. But again, this goes back to some of these guys. We're going to the Super Bowl this year because of this roster we have put in place. You and I said on here saying, whoa, let's pump the brakes on the whole Super Bowl talk. He's a rookie. We have Matt Eberflus as head coach. The Packers and Lions are still in the division. And this is before we thought the Vikings would win games. We didn't think they would.
Yep.
Pump the brakes. So now these people are backtracking now and trying to figure out what's going on. And we'll get more into Caleb Williams talk when we talk about the head coach stuff because a lot's been said and I have a lot of thoughts. So it's just kind of, those are the stuff we're seeing are glimpses of what he can do, which is awesome. Now it's just how do you get it out of him consistently? I think you'll see more of it consistently next year, no matter who the head coach is, just because of the progression.
Mm-hmm.
And him just getting used to that. Again, he played in an air raid system where he learned how to get people open from open grass. But now he's dealing with, wait a minute, I'm throwing this ball against Arizona, and I'm able to get it there. But now I'm throwing it against this NFL team where that guy was the All-American on their college team, so now it's a little tighter. Mm-hmm. Those are things that he just has to continue to grow and learn. Some learn it faster than others. We wanted a C.J. Stroud type of year. We're not – but think about it. Caleb Williams is throwing a lot of yards. He hasn't thrown an interception. He hasn't done this. But the interception thing is kind of his fault too. He holds onto the ball too long because he doesn't want to. He's so worried about throwing an interception. He's so worried about that. So a lot of growing pains here, but those are. I mean, I think that's why you're seeing those type of numbers as the game goes forward.
Oh yeah,
and sometimes I think he says screw it, and he does make those dangerous throws because he's got to realize you have DJ Moore that can probably go up and get it. Odunze's really coming on, so like he can go up and get it. Keenan Allen finally showed he can do it. So like you have guys where you can sometimes take a risk.
I do like what I'm seeing. So I'm not going to take away from the conversation like some do with the second half, stat pad arguments or whatever. Personally, what I find interesting from these conversations is it seems to oftentimes more be, and credit, we do have blinders from fandom, but it seems to be folks that are in other fan bases. Funny enough, I used to give these certain fans a pass, but a lot of Carolina Panthers fans like to throw shade at the state of Chicago, mainly because of, remember, we did clown on them for the DJ Moore trade. And
yes, we did.
We are 4-11, just like the Panthers are right now. That being said, though, I feel way more confident with Caleb and the pieces we have, get the right person in than like what Carolina has to retool with. Not saying Bryce Young hasn't shown that he has the potential again, but like, come on, man. Like, compare the two. That side juxtaposition out of the way. Caleb, for me, next year it's all about, hey, look, processor needs to start clicking immediately when you get out the gate. A lot of people want to see what they see from Caleb in quarter 3 than when they see him in quarter 1. It's not this whole, oh God, I need to start slinging it because I have to, not because I'm, trying to follow game plan and not make a mistake. It's like, no, you have that talent. Use that talent and kind of go out there and confidently use it. We see it, just don't wait to feel like you have to get the game process down to do so, or worried about making a mistake. Because I mean, dude, you only had 5 interceptions this year. It's kind of crazy, Bears quarterback with not double digit interceptions in a season. Kind of wild when you put that in perspective in recent years. So, been doing great. Honestly, fumbles have been, minimal. They've happened, but still it's minimal compared to like recent years with Justin Fields. So that was good to see too. I mean, he's doing a lot of the stuff right. It's just, I think people want to see things like, hey, you were brought out of college as a deep ball thrower, but you have one of the highest uncatchable ball throw rates in the NFL. That needs to come down. And as a rookie, you expect that to come down, given whoever you put behind center or behind the sideline as your head coach with your OC or whatever tandem you have. Hey, we want to see you come out and start slinging it in your first half instead of being a second half come from behind kind of quarterback. Yeah, I'm all for all of this, and I think that will come in time. But that's what most of the conversations turn to, and quite frankly, it's almost on the national scale, it's almost weird because I get Jaden Daniels has had an amazing year, but I'm with a lot of people where it's like, oh my God, Caleb Williams is like looked at as like this failure quarterback, and I'll be frank, if you did this with like hindsight's 2020, of course, and Justin, we said that Justin Fields, we said that in his first year because he just had a tremendous train wreck and it was a Matt Nagy year. But like Mr. Trubisky also was a dud. Those two were duds in comparison. This is like a guy that's going to throw, my guess by the end of the year, he'll be pushing 24, 25, probably 24 touchdowns is my prediction. Maybe an interception because he gets a little greedy or not. We'll find out. He's been playing it safe, and then he does it where he'll start slinging it later. So sky's the limit. I mean, he's already over 3,000 passing yards. He's not – I don't think he breaks the 4K mark, but I mean, come on. This is a great year for a quarterback in a kind of a nuts scenario he's been in. So I don't know where that whole phenomenon's coming, but like no, that's so strange to me because I see a lot more – upside than I ever have.
It's
post 2017, man. I mean,
it's because you saw some of those posts at the beginning of the year when these losing streaks started to happen. You kind of saw them, but we could blame Shane Waldron at first. So it was this
Mhm.
is why. Then when he was gone, it was let's blame Matt Eberflus. So you talked about with Matt Eberflus gone, a lot of heat's going to go on Ryan Poles. Well, now a lot of heat's about to go on Caleb Williams. So
Yeah.
now Bears fans and other media people that aren't Bears fans, they have to blame somebody and they have to look at this. Think about Adam Hogue, where he talked about how great of a passer Justin Fields was. And as the season progressed, then the discussion came
I
talking about.
still can't believe that man ever said something like this, too.
And then it was like, well, wait a minute. He hasn't proven that he's a good passer, even though all over his shows, he kept talking about what a good passer Justin Fields was. Then when it came to the discussion of trading him or not, and what the discussion is, he said, well, the discussion is going to be that he's not a good passer, and he hasn't proven that. So it's always been like people like him and these other people that do this. They have to find something to blame. Where me, I'm blaming the whole team. I'm
Mhm.
blaming everybody. I'm not saying I'm right or wrong. You're entitled to your opinion.
Of
It's
course.
just be consistent with what you're saying and what your eyes are telling you, and
Yeah.
not just if you're going to say Justin Fields is a great passer, stick with that all the way through. You know, he was also a guy that about never mind the whole conversation, even with Mitch Trubisky back then, it was always you have to blame somebody, and they because you saw that when Matty Eberflus was gone, they started to blame Ryan Poles, and we knew that was going to happen. Well, now they're trying to point the finger at Caleb Williams and all this stuff. So it's like, okay, the quote I found, Zach Zademan on 670,
Ah, yes.
goes on a rant about the over the top reactions to Caleb Williams' good throws. Don't tell me that I'm watching something that I've clearly haven't watched. Stop lying to me and telling me that's a generational throw because it's not. That was
Oh, I don't know, man. I mean, I still which game was it that he threw that insane, like, you remember the shoulder one, like this, where it's like
yeah.
90-degree angle? You can't tell me that's not generational, like, type of throw right there.
That's what I'm saying. He just has to do it consistently, right?
Well, that's the thing. Like, yeah, it's a great one-off, but I'm with people there. It's like, he's done several of those too, same style, where they've been complete duds and they don't come near the target. So I get it, but I don't know, man. I mean, I've seen a lot of good stuff this year. I think he definitely can do better. It can definitely be more consistent. If you want to have the consistency argument, please be my guest. But I don't know about saying that it's not special, because I mean, I've seen way more in 1 year with him than I ever did in the last 8 seasons between the last 2 guys they drafted in the first round. I
No,
mean,
right.
with hands freaking down, no
Right.
comparison.
Right. So that's why I'm like, I think they picked the right quarterback, and we'll, as of right now, here in 3 years, maybe we're like, oh, maybe not.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
you're seeing glimpses of it, and you're seeing growth in certain spots. But I think over this losing streak, which mentally, when you're going through a losing streak, you lose a head coach, you lose your OC, the fans are coming after you, the media is coming after you. You're a rookie. He's proven that media coming after him has bothered him. We saw that when he was in college. He's trying to
Right.
learn from that. I think that stuff creeps in from time to time, and you're going to see moments, which we have, especially in the first and second quarter. He puts a lot of pressure on himself because, again, there's really, he has DJ Moore to talk to. He has Keenan Allen to talk to, but he doesn't, I don't know who he leans on for those conversations. Like, sometimes when you're a young quarterback, you have an experienced quarterback behind you. Like, for example, Chase Daniels would have been the perfect person, I think, for him to go talk to and like calm him down. You have
Yeah.
a Tyson Bagent who it's his second year, so like that's who you have to talk. Nothing against him, but it's like, who do you lean on? And it seems like he's been leaning more on Keenan Allen than like DJ Moore and stuff, because DJ Moore's body language is kind of bleh.
It's been a weird year for DJ Moore, by the way. Can we put that out there? Like,
Super weird.
he still has an outside shot, by the way, of having 1,000-yard season. He's at 826 right now with 2 games to go.
That's
But
awesome.
like, media wise, he has taken a tumble in a lot of people's eyes, it feels like, as like the prodigal son receiver to now like borderline diva in Chicago. Like, he's not like full blown diva. like say like Stephon Diggs, but like it's been kind of a weird year for him PR wise. He is not he has I think he has a few people that are keeping a closer eye on him than he used to be.
Yeah, it's been weird for him. Odunze's been fine. I know Keelan Allen's been frustrated, but with this game he had, I think it kind of revamps him a little bit.
Yeah, side skew combo. Do you pay Keenan Allen? That's another conversation that's been coming towards the end of the year here.
Part of me says, yeah, because that's your new safety net.
Really?
I'm
on the other side. I feel like they're going to let him go because they have so much more that they have to get now.
I mean, there's two answers to this. If you can do it, yes, you re-sign him, because I thought Cole Kmet was going to be that safety net.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like Keenan Allen has become that safety net. But if you need to not sign him in order to have a better O-line and D-line, yeah, sorry, I think you kind of have to go. But if you can maneuver it and figure it out, as long as you're not screwing up the other stuff, you find a way to bring him back. And hopefully he wants to come back. Hopefully he's like, it depends on who the head coach is. It depends on that, but I think he likes working with Caleb Williams. I think he likes doing that stuff.
The chemistry is better. My concern is they're going to give him, I think, how do I put this? I think the Bears want to give him definitely more in the lines of like a shorter term, like high mid veteran deal. And I think he's looking for that last big payday. And I just don't know if they're going to meet on that.
Well, it also depends on what other teams offer him, because like, what has he proven this year to show that he gets that big payday? You know what I mean?
I mean, good question. You know, he is he did only miss 2 games this year, which actually is pretty for Keenan Allen. That's a pretty good season. Not gonna lie. Yards are down, but credit. The caveat is that his I mean, when you're playing in Chicago, like you have been, it's kind of hard. He has his worst season in terms of yardage. I mean, besides 2016, where he only played 6 games and was out from injuries, is 2015, way long ago. 725. Now, he'll do better than that as long as he's healthy. But like, you know, he hasn't had a sub that he's only had his last sub 1,000-yard season was due to injury only a few years ago. So I don't know.
Well, I would love for him to come back, but if it's going to ruin what you're going to try to build that needs to be fixed, then yeah. But if you could figure it out, let it ride one more time and bring him back.
I'm looking forward to that discussion, because I mean, clearly, like I said, we know what the message is, like who has what needs to be addressed, you know, because I think that's a fascinating case. You could argue, well, you know, we still have DJ Moore under that heavy contract. You know, maybe removing Keenan forces Cole to be used more, because I mean, he's also a heavy contract in terms of like tight end money.
And he's been under.
And then you got Rome Odunze, who's been only moving up, and he's a rookie too. And they've been getting better with him. So,
because Cole Kmet only has,
I don't even know what his numbers are, but they can't be great. I don't suspect a great number right now.
He has 471 receiving yards, actually.
Still feels low for what he's being given.
I mean, he has 45 catches and he's been targeted 53 times. 4 touchdowns. Keenan Allen, 694 yards. He has 62 catches and he's been targeted 110 times.
Yeah.
And he has 7 touchdowns.
So my comp to what Cole is what I want. I want him to be basically our Pat Freiermuth. And Freiermuth right now has 568, 6 TDs this season. Yeah,
but it's like, I feel like Cole Kmet's underperformed because he's gone games without a catch.
Well, this was supposed to be his bigger year. He just got paid this offseason to be.
He's too busy doing his CHGO podcast.
Oh my God. Adam Hogue strikes again.
And they
Nah.
fired people at CHGO. You see that? They let people go.
Wait, seriously?
Yeah,
No.
like Nicholas Marino, they let him go.
Oh.
And I
Oh,
liked him.
shoot. Okay.
They let go him. They let go somebody from like their Blackhawks show. They let somebody go from the Cubs show.
Mm,
And so now people are pissed because they're like, well, you have a Cole Kmet podcast. I'm sure you're paying him. You have Lance
right. Well,
Briggs
I
coming
think that,
on.
yeah, that might signal they're trying to clear some room to make sense. I mean, not to mention they're supposed to be growing. I mean, they're getting a lot of financial money. Whatever. We got a whole episode on this in the off season, but like, yeah, I mean, I know I'm throwing like random debates here, but like Keenan, like I said, the Keenan Allen one I think is interesting because like you could keep this same set of receivers, which has been getting better chemistry as the years gone on. It feels like even with the switch in a coach, they've been getting better at understanding what the assignment is, which maybe this is my question. Do we know if Keenan Allen would take a hometown deal to stay in Chicago? Like, does he like Caleb that much to stay? Like, say, I'll take a 2-year deal that even if it's not like big money for my caliber, I can still say it's enough to where I feel comfortable here and I have someone that I've built a repertoire with,
Well,
and then next year you get the offensive coach or whoever you get in, and you get an OC that's on the same message as all three of those guys, and then you just grow from here.
That's going to be the question. I think for Keenan Allen's side, it all depends on who the head coach is, who's calling plays first. Even if he likes Caleb and he likes the group he's with, I think that's going to be the number one thing is who do they hire? And then he'll make that decision. And then it depends on what kind of moves do they make? Do they trade a Swift and open up some room? Do they do this? Do they do that? Like, you just never know.
Right. Here's the crazy thing. So, according to what I'm seeing, and credit, there's going to be off-season moves or dead money still involved, but according to Spot Track here, they should be set to have a projected 5th best cap again. Like, they're going to be top 10 cap again next year for available space for free agency. So, again, I think it depends on the deal, because then I think you want to show fans that you're going to spend on a high caliber free agent or offensive lineman or D lineman or whoever you need. And then do you retain him with a reasonable, but not like budget, low ball offer to then retain your one receiver that is on a 1-year deal?
Right. So that's what I'm saying. You can't let Keenan Allen affect you getting O-line and D linemen.
Mm-hmm.
Because you do have Odunze, you do have DJ Moore, and sadly for this year you have Cole Kmet. So it's like you can make a argument, and I guess you're paying Swift. So if you think about Swift as another wide receiver type of thing, you're like, okay, we still do have this.
Yeah.
So if it does get in the way of you beefing up the O-line and D-line, you can't sign them. Like, if that gets in the way.
I mean, there's going to be, and not only Keenan to worry about, but also other key free agents, just to list off ones that will be, I think, interesting to discuss when we do our off-season episode, while we're just discussing it. So Trevin Jenkins is a unrestricted free agent this offseason too, by the way. I think that's a hard conversation right now.
That's harder than the Keenan Allen one, because Jenkins has shown a lot of good stuff. It's just he can't continually stay healthy. So
Jack Sanborn's also, he's restricted this offseason, by the way.
A lot of big time decisions here for Ryan Poles, because it all comes down, if you can go find an old lineman to replace him that's better, you kind of have to say bye to him, which sucks. But again, does Jenkins take a hometown deal like, hey, this is where I've been, whatever? But he could say, I want a fresh start. I've been a part of shit here, and I kind of just want to go on. But he's injury prone, so that's kind of.
Oh yeah, I mean, you think about this. Here's another one actually. While I'm listing off starters, and I know we've had conversation, but PFF says otherwise on him, is Coleman Shelton is also going to be free agent next year too.
He
came in on a 1-year deal. Did you like what he did? I mean, credit the noise around him since like the first 5 weeks. It's kind of been silent. He's actually adjusted to where like he's not even in the public eye anymore as a problem. It's more become like the tackles and the guards has been more the liability. But do you pay him to stay? Has he been a good center for you?
That all comes down to, can you replace these people? Like if there's a center out there you can get that's better, buy Coleman Shelton. If there's another tackle or something that you can get that's better than Tevin Jenkins, then you let them go. But they have to work on this stuff quick. Like this has to be done very quickly because you don't want to piss them off either. Like if you don't sign Jenkins right away and he gets pissed off and says, well, I'm not coming back, and you can't find somebody or convince somebody to come, now you're like, oh, I just lost 2.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, there are some big time decisions that they're going to have to make this offseason, and and if Ryan Poles keeps his job going into this offseason, the final game ends at the Packers and he still has his job, he is on a short leash. He has to make the right decisions in a head coach.
I mean that's if he keeps it too, because like I'm still, I don't know about you, but I still think there is a slight chance that if they can't get a single win to end the year and it still is ugly, like it's been post Thanksgiving, that they just, Kevin Warren being what it's hearing about behind the scenes, they just say, F it, reset the entire thing. Well,
it's also interesting because if whoever they want to hire, if they want their own GM, like, for example, which we'll talk about later, let's just say in a hypothetical world, it's Mike Vrabel. Mike Vrabel wants to come in. But what if he knows somebody that could be a general manager? Does Kevin Warren then go, like, a guy could come in and want his own general manager? So there's 2 ways he could be fired. It could be the season did not go the way we thought. Kevin Warren's like, I didn't hire you. I got to bring somebody else in. Or is it if they bring a head coach in, the head coach goes to Kevin Warren and goes, well, I don't trust what this guy does, but this guy I know does a good job. Like, bring him in.
Yeah.
Like, or what if it's Ben Johnson? What if Ben Johnson gets hired and he goes, hey, there's this guy with the Lions that works with our general manager. I think he'd be the perfect person. I trust him. Let's bring him in because I want to rebuild. You don't think they would say no to that? Like, they'd be like, oh, yeah, bring him on.
I mean, you could do that. I'm looking through, again, I don't mean to make this a free agent discussion right now, but it's also been kind of hard to talk about the Bears right now because they've just been pretty bad to the boring side of things. Not like interesting bad like it's been before Eberflus was let go. Like, no, they've just been bad to where like you go and you watch an ass whooping on Sunday because you expect it to happen.
Yep.
But if we're like discussing this right now, might as well. So a few people that I'm looking, if we're talking line, by the way, I'll throw some ones I think you'll have a fun laugh or interesting take on. Because full disclosure, what do you think the most important position on the line right now is for the Bears that they're lacking the most on? What are your thoughts?
Guards.
Exactly. There are a ton of good guards this free agent cycle coming out. One of them that I think would be just an instant, makes sense. And the relationship, Kevin Zeitler in Detroit, his contract comes up this offseason.
Get him right now.
I'm saying, so fun fact, he is going to be available. One of the best guards in the league, easy. He is 34, but I think he'd be good to get things in the right motion.
That's a leader on the O-line then, because think about it, we don't have leaders in certain positions.
You know who else is coming up for a contract? Now, he's going to come up with an Achilles injury from week 4, but would be kind of funny to cycle back to this person. James Daniels is back on the market.
Bring him home.
I mean, a lot of people have said that they made a mistake to let him go. And
I think
he's
so.
Clearly shown that. So, there's actually, like I said, there's a lot of good guards on here. Will Fries over Indianapolis is coming up. His contract this year as well.
Can we get Kelsey out of retirement for like 2 years?
just a short term. Wouldn't be bad.
We'll promise him because he hated the tush push. Tell him we won't do it. We won't do it. He hated it. He said how much he hated it. Tell him we won't do it.
Oh my God. You imagine?
No, there's a lot of linemen out there, and that's what I'm saying. This is a
Mhm.
big free agent time. Bring them back. Say we made a mistake.
Yeah.
Try to sign a guy from Detroit, especially if you hire Ben Johnson and you want to bring like, we're going to talk about the head coach stuff here soon, but like bring them in. Like,
Well, when here's a discussion on the center part. So, Atlanta Falcons center Drew Dahlman is also going to be a free agent this year, and per his ratings, he is one of the best in the league as well,
bring
too.
them in. Bring them in.
So, there's a lot of good ones. What else is there's a Kansas City guard that I also saw, and he's like high up on the list according to PFF for like availability. Yeah, Trey Smith in Kansas
Yeah.
City. So Smith has an 80.4 PFF overall grade and ranks 10th among guards this season, and he'll only be 25, younger than Daniels, by the way.
Because here's another thing to think about. This roster, even with a sophomore quarterback next year, it would feel like the roster is set to win now. Correct? Like, am I correct in trying to? Even if we have a sophomore quarterback and a sophomore wide receiver,
if you can knock down any inconsistencies where line. Oh, look, here's the thing: the Bears right now have somehow managed to eclipse and have a worse year in sacks, to where by the end of the year, barring that they have an incredible or really good performance against Seattle and just happen to do nothing against Green Bay, odds are they'll finish top 5. It'll be one of the top 5 worst seasons of a quarterback getting sacked in NFL history. It's hard to pass David Carr. He has 76. Caleb Williams has 60 at this moment, and he's only within single digits of jumping up to top 10 and within 5, I think it is 5 to 6 sacks of getting to top 5 in NFL history. So that is one of the easiest solutions this year is like, hey, you know what would be great? Not have like cut that number like by 25%. And I imagine you would have much more production easily. You know, get it down to like, quite frankly, get it down into like the high 30s at this point in the year, and you're doing wonders for him.
right?
You know, like 60, like that's one of the biggest eyesores that, you know, we know about it. Everyone knows about it. But like let's bring that combo back up is, hey, maybe not have the guy, and I know he does this to himself sometimes too, but Justin did this too to himself, is, hey, maybe not have the guy get sacked 60 times in a season, and we could start having a combo. Because clearly, here's the thing. One of the best comps to discussing the QB situation is the sack numbers and the performances between the two year over year. Justin had the exact same problems in terms of sometimes he holds the ball too long. Sometimes his line's garbage. He got sacked an insane amount. But you know what? Even with the person we have behind center getting sacked 60 times, who looks like the better quarterback? Both of them have had the same garbage problems with protection. And yet I can honestly say that one of them actually looks like they can do something even with having issues of getting hit the most. So just like cut that by 20, 30, 25, 30% on sack totals. Like imagine how many more wins you could have or more drives you can have successful. I mean, that's my whole take on this, you know?
Right.
There's a lot of good talent in free agency, by the way. But then the other question is, you know, and I think the answer is yes to this because of the pressure is, does Ryan Poles actually spend on a free agent lineman? Like high quality one. That's the thing. The whole argument he's always had is, well, we're just going to draft him. We'll save money there. Why overspend? The answer is because there's good veteran talent. Like Detroit and Minnesota are like the obvious, like, complete yang to yin of the Poles argument, where it's like, yeah, we spent like a crazy amount of money on these lines, and Detroit's been the best line 2 years in a row. Kind of makes sense to, like, you know, pick up guys, like not only draft guys, but, you know, pick up guys that are worth it too.
We said that when the Ford family put their foot down and said we're gonna let the general manager do their thing.
Like, and it's the thing, like you can have your cake and eat it too. That like they drafted Penei Sewell, who is arguably the best tackle in the league, one of the best that you can argue. But they also have freaking dogs across the rest that they have spent cash on, you know?
Well,
so
what did Detroit invest stuff into? They invested in their O-line, and they got a leadership O-line too, even with when they drafted. They made sure that's somebody there.
Mm-hmm.
They made sure their D-line was good. Look at all the injuries the D-line has had, and they're still up there doing stuff. Now, that goes credit to the coaching staff, but still, where else did they invest? Oh, they traded for a quarterback. And then they just let things build around those three spots. They said as long as the D-line's good, the O-line's good, you get a competent quarterback. Dan Campbell hires a staff that believes in what he's doing, and Dan Campbell just be a head coach and make sure things are going the way they need to. Just let things build around him. Get somebody in free agency. Trade for somebody here. Maybe we'll draft somebody here. Maybe people want to come here now, and so you sign them. Like, look, they got. I know Montgomery's out, but what happened when they got Montgomery from the Bears? He started they just found veteran guys to get the last bit out of them, and it's working so far.
Mm-hmm.
So we say this every single time. Don't worry, my Lions gear's coming. Don't you worry.
I know it is.
My Chargers gear is upstairs right now. I didn't put it on, but we need to look at what the Lions did and said, look, we have a better roster set up than what they did when they made this decision. So let's get the O-line built up. Let's get the D-line built up, and everything else takes care of itself. And guess what? We already have things around to take care of itself. So even if you're going to get only 3 years out of some of these veteran guys, at least you're going to show the fans and everything like, hey, we're going to get the best we can out of some of these veteran guys. Yes, we're going to have some young O-line, D-line with us, but they're going to lead them. They're going to show them the right way to do things. And within those 3 years, hopefully we make a playoff run, like a good playoff run here.
Mm-hmm.
And then while we have those veteran guys, draft some younger guys to learn from them. And then you just hopefully it's status quo every so it's weird how that works. But
yeah, it's almost like you start a culture and you build a system around
it's
people.
Weird, right? It's weird, look
like me looking at the rest of the division where it's like, what are Matt LaFleur, Dan Campbell, and Kevin O'Connell doing? Oh, that's right, they're building like an actual franchise and a vision for the future that they want. So they're not hamstrung to get free agent and hope to God that we just happen to stumble. No. It's, in a way, it's almost like baseballing football, except you don't have the farm system like baseball to let them go play, but it's developing, it's letting people sit down and, take a breather a bit or have a vision for like, okay, we know we have great guys now, but like, what's the next generation of my evolution here?
Well, I went on that rant when you were gone about the McCaskies. I said, they have the money, so money's not the issue. They're a top 10 valuable NFL franchise. When they travel on the road, you see a ton of orange and blue because there's Bear fans all over the country. But they're okay just being okay. And they're okay with once in a great while just finding a diamond in the rough, ride that out for a year or two, make a lot of money from said year or two, and then just, we got to make a change.
Yeah.
And you hope that you find a diamond in the rough. Yeah. 1985 with Mike Ditka, we win the Super Bowl. The next year, have an okay year, but we have never gotten back there. The 90s, once in a while, you might have a good defense. Then comes along Lovie Smith. Well, hopefully he's a diamond in the rough. You have good defenses during that time, which keeps people interested. You get to the Super Bowl, keeps people interested. Like, maybe they'll get back. I went to the training camp in high school the next year after the Super Bowl year, and the excitement was there. We went there as our football team. We went there, and the excitement, Rex Grossman, and all this. You were excited. Well, then you kind of don't perform well. You're competing with your defense, but you're not there yet. Let's try to find another diamond in the rough here. And then that's when the dominoes start to fall. Like you get Mark Trestman, blah. You get John Fox, blah. And they're like, well, look, we're trying to find that diamond in the rough. Don't you worry. Then comes along Matt Nagy. And then in 2018, we have this magical year that we didn't think we were going to have. It had 2006 vibes. We had that Super Bowl defense. We had a quarterback that did just enough to keep you in it. Just did okay. And we're a doink away from maybe going to the Super Bowl and all that stuff. Like, you're right there. And then, oh, Matt Nagy made us to the playoffs, but it's not good enough. And like, oh, we'll find another diamond in the rough here. Oh, we draft Justin Fields. Don't you worry. Like, it's gonna happen. We brought in a defensive coordinator, and that's another thing you notice. We always flip flop.
Yeah.
Like, who does what? Like, Matt Nagy was an offensive mind. Before him, John Fox, defensive minded. Mark Trestman, offensive minded. Lovie Smith, defensive minded. So it's just always they want to find this diamond in the rough because they don't think about let's win right now, but also prepare for let's try to be competitive as it goes on. That's why the Packers always do so well because they think that way. Detroit Lions are now going to start thinking that way. So I'm curious to see what happens 5 years from now. Until the very end, the Patriots did that. The 49ers have always tried to do those things.
Right.
Like, the Chargers are about to do those things with Jim Harbaugh because that's what he's going to believe in. Like, there's just teams after teams. The Colts with Peyton Manning, I know it's kind of fallen off. They're trying to put it back together. But when you have something like a Caleb Williams and a Tom, I'm not saying Caleb Williams is Tom Brady or Peyton Manning.
Oh yeah, we got some time. We got some time to determine still, but yeah.
But when you have something like that, like, it's so frustrating when the organization doesn't think about the fans and think about, like, let's try to do this all the time and not just for once in a while for 2 years. We're going to keep the Bears always find a way to keep us interested and keep everybody interested, and it brings eyes to them. I think now people are waking up going, oh my God. Like, it's just so I think the McCaskies are feeling some heat. Poles is feeling some heat.
I mean, you think firing mid-season that maybe they finally are somewhat seeing that,
I think those second-degree burns went to third-degree burns. They're like, oh, we're on fire.
Yeah, maybe we actually need to stop for a second.
Wait, they probably were like, why is the heat up so high? Who turned the thermostat up high? And then all of a sudden, they're like, oh, wait a minute, there's a fire. Let's make a move.
Oh man, tough call. Fun that you mentioned Dan Campbell because that's something I'm big conversation with these coaching hires because Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson both are looked at as coaching candidates. Next evolution of his discussion with people is well, Ben Johnson leaves. Do the Detroit Lions fall off? We're about to find out. But I am in the camp that it does not. But then again, if I'm being fair, we've talked about Mike Vrabel in the past. Mike Vrabel fell off because Arthur Smith and company, they couldn't find a good replacement. But I also blame the GM on that side too. Whatever. My
people forget about that part.
Mm-hmm.
People forget about that.
Not paying AJ Smith and going cheap on the defense. I get it.
You keep talking for one hot second.
I know. But fun times ahead. Circling back, this matchup, kind of final thoughts on it with Seattle. I know we've kind of been everywhere, but to get back to the conversation at hand for tonight's matchup that's coming up in a few hours. So
Bears lose.
I'm also in that camp. I think it's gonna be one of those games where the Bears tease that they get a win, but Seattle
keep
does
us interested. You see that? They keep us interested.
They do. Somewhat. Lately it hasn't been the case, but somewhat do. Yeah, my money's on Seattle pulls it out. It's going to be a cardiac kid type of win where they keep their playoff hopes alive. By the way, to update what I was saying earlier about their playoff hopes. So they have to win tonight, but there's two schools of thought as to how they can stay in the hunt to then play LA for the battle of the NFC West title next week. Either they win and LA loses, or the other scenario is they have to have like a certain combination of 4 teams win this week if LA wins as well against the Cardinals to still be qualified. Because apparently if the Rams win and the strength of schedule tiebreaker goes in the Rams' favor, the Seattle Seahawks are instantly eliminated, and then week 17 becomes a complete nothing burger of a game, apparently. And let me pull this up just to double check what the combo is. because it's like, I think it's like 6 or 7 teams, and I'm trying to remember where I found this. Come on now, don't fail me now. Show me. I'll find it, but you keep going. But I think just to put it in perspective while I'm looking for this, simply put it, Seattle needs this win. Chicago knows that they can, kind of play with nothing to lose. So maybe like Seattle plays tighter, perhaps. I mean, keep in mind, they just lost what was a winnable game against Minnesota at home last week. That would have kept them neck and neck to where they wouldn't have to be in this situation in the first place. But, did not work out in their favor. So, yeah, maybe that helps, perhaps? Question mark?
Maybe.
Yeah. That's how I view it, at least. Hard to say. Oh, no, you're fine.
My ADHD kicked in.
Oh, you're what?
My ADHD.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's cool.
I actually went to the doctor today about memory stuff. He goes, "Do you have ADHD?" And I was like, "What?"
Oh, for real? Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if I have it or not, but I think I do.
All right. Here's what it is. So the Rams own tiebreakers with these certain teams. So the Seattle Seahawks need wins from 4 of these teams this week, along with us taking an L, to then next week have it where the strength of schedule would favor Seattle in a win and in scenario. They need wins from a combination of the Packers, Jets, Lions, Falcons, Broncos, and Dolphins.
Wow.
So, tough call, considering that the Packers play the Vikings and have not beaten a single of the top 2 NFC North teams this year. Let's see. The Jets play the Bills, so good luck with that. Lions play 49ers. Commanders play the Falcons, so
okay.
That. Broncos play the Bengals. Browns play the Dolphins. If I'm being honest with you, I think Seattle gets eliminated this week either way.
I think so too, but that's why it's like they need all that to happen, but they also have to win.
Yeah. Well, the easiest path is the Cardinals get off the mat after an embarrassing loss last week. They come in, beat a Rams team they beat earlier in the year, and walk away. But the difference is, and unfortunately I know this because A, I do have a Rams fan that is my best friend, but B, if you've ever followed Jake Ellenbogen, he's one of the most annoying Rams contributors I've ever seen. And so he's kept me in the loop from just sheer algorithm will.
Right.
They have their full line healthy since like mid-year, which the Rams last played the Cardinals at the beginning of the season, and apparently we're down near their entire starting line. So I don't know. Good luck is what I'm going to give, because Seattle's only option really to me is they beat Chicago. Arizona comes in and plays spoiler, and in LA, mind you, and upsets the Rams, and then they play for the title, for the division title next week. So good luck there.
I mean, but you never know.
You never know. I mean, hey, like, I know I'm starting to sound like a Seattle conversationalist, but it's funny. Seattle has a few games that were crucial that were one scores. One of them was, by the way, a game against the Rams where if it wasn't for a 99-yard interception return for a touchdown, we'd be talking about a different game earlier in the year.
So what you're saying is the Bears might have a chance because the Seahawks kind of know that their playoff hopes fall into all this.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I think that because Seattle is a wild card every week, it's a winnable game. Do I think the Bears win? No. I'm going to say, full throwing it out there, give me 24-20. Seattle gets a game-winning drive, pulls it off. keeps their very slim hopes alive for this week?
I'm going to say 24-14 Seahawks because I don't trust the Bears to do anything. I feel like a mistake's going to be made. I just don't. The Bears haven't scored a lot over the last few weeks, so there's nothing to tell me that it's going to change.
Seattle's defense isn't terrible either. It's a solid unit. I still, of course, don't trust our line. Tevin Jenkins is out for this game still. And of course, Braxton Jones going down with a broken ankle did not help matters either.
Mm-hmm.
So, which by the way, thank God it wasn't more severe. Speedy recovery all in all for next year. But yeah, I mean, their defense isn't a slouch. They don't get as many sacks as some of the other opponents we've had recently, but you still can get home to people.
Right.
They also have a much better pass defense than Detroit. Something I did look up.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing that scares me. All right, I'm focused. The thing that scares me is if the Bears could not take advantage of the Lions injury report, you could fill an offense and defense. Like it's just amazing all the injuries they have. And you as the Bears couldn't take advantage of that. Tells me that if you're going up against a healthy team like the Seahawks, where they have a better this and a better that and they're healthier, if you can't take advantage of the Lions, what makes me think you're going to take advantage of the Seahawks? Yes, it's at home. It's tonight. I just don't see it. I just don't see where I can trust you to win a game. I want them to win. This is their last chance. So maybe it's 24-17. I don't know. Maybe they make it closer than what I think. Maybe they get a field goal out of it. Maybe they actually move the ball a little bit. Who knows? I just see the Seahawks winning. I think they're going to take their playoff, just say, like I said, you know what? We can't control everybody else. Let's control what we do. If we win, it puts us in a better spot. Let's go. And you don't want to be the team that loses to the Bears. Like, oh, how'd you snap your 9-game losing streak? We beat the Seahawks. The Seahawks don't want that.
No.
I think they're going to be more motivated than people think. And I just don't see it. There's nothing there that shows me that they're going to win.
Quite frankly, my X factor for this one is going to be, honestly, what do we get any life out of this Bears secondary and pass rush that really has been absent? Specifically, the pass rush has been absent this year, even more so in deafening numbers. Gervin Dexter is questionable for this week, but I'm looking at Montez Sweat to finally step up and say, hey, I've had a rough year. I kind of need to show that I am not someone that's getting overpaid for my value, or I've been frustrated at times. Like, clearly you've seen him play this year. He's been visibly frustrated on the field from his year.
Right.
I'm looking at that as a guy that if there's a game where you want to try and go out and like say, hey, I was worth the pickup last season, that 12 sack season wasn't a fluke, then I think that's the man I'm looking at. Because quite frankly, I don't fully trust that we're going to get any high caliber level of secondary help right now. Tyreek Stevenson falls off a map. Kyler Gordon, I love him in run defense, but let's be honest, he's not really a great coverage corner in my opinion. He is above average, but that's about it. His specialty is to go in there and wreak havoc on either surprise blitzes or wrecking run plays. That's his best bread and butter. Terrell Smith, when they've subbed him in for Tyreek, not much better. I mean, my thing is that's another unit we can have a discussion on for a later day on finding a corner to replace probably Tyreek next year or to, supplant him. But the thing is, I don't trust that unit. There's 3 quality receivers. Geno Smith is, while not the most secure quarterback and not the most, I would say, safe quarterback, he still can do damage. We know that he has turned a corner as a legit quarterback that is at times been a star this in seasons, still has thrown 15 picks. But I think that part of that's going to come down to our guys getting home is the thing. I think
Which
we
they
need
have
that
not.
really bad.
We need it really bad, and I don't want to be a Debbie Downer on the Bears. There's just nothing that shows me that consistently is the key word out of all this. Consistently doing this. There's times they're showing it again. There's times the offense looks good. There's times this happens, but then all of a sudden a big play happens. They get fooled on the stumbling, bumbling of Jared Goff, that fake fall.
Mm-hmm.
The Detroit Lions coaches are yelling, ball, 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 and it freezes the defense. Like, oh my God, the ball's on the ground. And then bam. Like,
freaking I just cannot believe that whole thing. Like listening to the analysis of that, by the way, how do you think that stuff up? You know,
that's why
wild.
Dan Campbell and company are awesome.
Wild.
They think outside the box.
But yeah, I nuts. I don't. You won't see that next week, but I mean, you know, I think it's going to come down to that, finding a way to get a turnover, you know, and capitalizing on it in particular. You know, that'll be good. You know, again, Geno's thrown 15 picks this year. It's he hasn't been lighting the world on fire, but he still has thrown for 4,000 yards. They're going to sling it across the field. You know, they will test that what has been a very porous secondary. They will find opportunities. So you got to get home. That's the thing. They haven't done it this year.
No, they can't get pressure on Geno Smith, and we play the zone and let things happen underneath of us, and we're not as physical. That's one thing I'll say. Like, Matt Eberflus didn't blitz a lot, but he'd play the man, and they're physical, and they're pushing him around, and they were doing these things. We've been in kind of more zone, and we're not blitzing to get pressure to, like, help out a little bit. And the defensive line's not getting there consistently. I know we got to Jared Goff once, I think. We actually collapsed the pocket and got to him. But if we can't do that on a cold night in Chicago, it's, you know, I don't know.
I had a good question.
So depressing. It's so depressing. And if we can't run the football, which we haven't proven, we're not good. Like, I think their game plan is to run the football. They try to, but it doesn't work. We don't have the running back. The O-line's banged up. It doesn't work. And then you kind of have to take away the play action game out of it when you can't run the football. Your tight end isn't there for your safety net. It's a wide receiver. So you kind of don't even have to guard Cole Kmet at times. And so it's just all a mess. It's a gigantic mess from top to bottom with the Chicago Bears organization. And yeah, it's just not much more. I mean,
pardon me.
I'm excited for the offseason to see who the new head coach will be. But there's that part of me that feels like they're going to screw it up. But yeah, I want to get to the offseason. I want to see what old linemen they get if they decide to go that route, which if they don't, the whole Soldier Field might get burned down if they don't do that.
Yeah, Jesus. You got to spend this year. We all know this. There's no reason not to. Don't become the Colts. Spend money on spots you need. Do not be some sort of miser with your cash. Put it in and invest into it. You know, get the talents that are out there.
Which, that's why part of me is saying that Ryan Poles gets another shot, because Kevin Warren's going to kind of tell him, like, I want to see if you're capable of this. Are you able to make the right decisions? Like, you've made good decisions, you've made bad decisions. Like every GM, they take risks, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Let's see if you can't work the magic you learned at Kansas City and bring it here. Like,
yeah,
part of me thinks that's what's going to happen. I feel like they're not going to fire him how the season has gone on, because I think Kevin Warren and him are probably having conversations about, like, this is what I see. This is what needs to be fixed. Are you the person that's able to fix this? And let's see. The only way I see him getting fired from my side is if a new head coach comes in and says, I trust this guy to be my general manager over this guy. I'll come in. If you really want me, you bring him in.
Well, think about Ben Johnson, like a man that has basically said, like, he's not just going to take it to take it. Like it sounds like not only is he going to be expensive, but he will be a guy that will want things his way. So,
well, that's what I said.
How bad do you want the coach? If Ben is the guy, if they want him that badly, which I don't know if the Bears do, but clearly, there's been new reports that Ben is now added Chicago back to the list of candidates to talk to. How bad do you want him? Because I'll be frank, past Bears teams, if any precedent is shown, like with Bruce Arians, they'll find a way to be stupid in the interview conversations and let good talent just walk out the door.
No, that's why this isn't such a big decision for Ryan Poles. It's a big time way for the organization. Like, I know Kevin Warren's new, but Kevin Warren's going to want to keep his job. So if the McCaskies tell him something, I don't trust Kevin Warren. Like, I'm glad they finally fired a coach midseason, but I don't trust him from his Big Ten times. How badly does he want to keep his job? Is he a person that's going to go to McCaskies and say, no, this is fucking stupid, like, we need to do this? Is he going to be that person? And so it's a big time thing for the organization. If you really want a Mike Vrabel, if you really want a Ben Johnson, and both of them come in and say, if Ben Johnson comes in and says, I saw what Dan Campbell did, I saw what our general management did, I want to run things similar, I want this guy to come in, this has to happen. If Mike Vrabel comes in and says, I had a bad time with the organization at the Tennessee Titans, I know how to fix it, I've learned, I've taken this time off, I know what it's going to take, I need this to happen. And if our management and our ownership says, well, we don't want somebody that's going to push the envelope, and they decide to go get somebody else and that's the only reason, then you're really showing, if it hasn't been shown already, it shows how much you don't care about constantly being successful on the field and in money. And it shows that you just don't care about making sure the fans are always happy. Yeah. Like, you've shown it. You've shown you're not serious. You're just there. You're just there.
Speaking on these, as we kind of get closer to the end, you and I catching up, it's been a good conversation today. But there's one thing we saved because it's in the news, and because I was wondering if you had talked about it since I had left. Coaching candidate of the week.
Oh God, is it Pete Carroll?
Do you want to still settle on Pete Carroll? Be in the conversation today? It's the hot ticket item.
So
sweeping the Chicagoland area.
There's a lot of factors to this. It came out that Pete Carroll has interest in talking to the Bears about their head coaching job. Is this just every coach has an interest in it because it's a head coaching position? Is that what this means? He wants to get back into coaching and he's interested because the job's open?
Mm-hmm.
Here's the thing. Pete Carroll's what, 77 years old?
He's 73. I thought he was actually 77, but apparently he's 73 years old. So he's actually on par with a Bill Belichick.
Okay. So I've read and tried to listen to some people on this. Pete Carroll's 73 years old. He has shown he knows how to win at college. Shows he knows how to win with the Seahawks. The Legion of Boom. Russell Wilson. Winning a Super Bowl. He knows how to win. He actually is very energetic for an old guy. Like, on the sideline, he's very energetic. He is not a coordinator. He's a guy that will have his fingerprints everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
But he's also a guy, like we just described Mike Vrabel and what Ben Johnson could be, is he wants to help in the office stuff too. He wants to be a head coach, get that stuff done. He also is involved in a lot of other things. So if the Bears talk to him, are they not going to like that he wants to be involved in those things? But he's going to tell them this is how it worked in Seattle and we got it done.
I mean, the track record speaks for itself. He was near, there are some in between, but like near every year you expected the Seahawks with Pete Carroll to be a playoff conversation team. And I mean, barring one dumb mistake, he would be a multi-time Super Bowl champion coach,
And you're
barring one choice.
And you're talking about a guy that's coached with the Jets. He was the head coach at New England.
Mm-hmm.
Went to college, or back to college, I should say. Did all that stuff. He's a defensive-minded guy because when he was with the Jets, he was a DC. But he's become just a head coach. And he was the head coach at Seattle, and people forget how long it was for, from 2010 to 2023. It was a long time.
It's a long tenure.
I did not think it was that long until this name was brought up. It didn't feel like it was that long.
No, he had a long, I would say pretty long stretch. I mean, and here's the breakdown from 2010 to 2023. He only missed the playoffs. I'm sorry, I'm just double checking because there's so much made. He only missed the playoffs 4 times. Now, credit, 2 of those last 3 were in his final 3 seasons in Seattle, where he finished and had records of 7-10, 9-8, and 9-8, respectively.
Right.
So not great end of track record, but I mean, he's made it work. And something that's pointed out by actually Pro Football Talk, who had a fun little interaction about the reveal with Adam Schefter, where Schefter said it was not his agent prodding him to do it. And then Pro Football Talk's Mike Florio was saying, no, it probably was, whatever. Is that Carroll's done it with multiple QBs that he's gotten playoff years with. He's the one that many point to as revitalizing or helping revitalize Geno Smith's career, besides, well, Shane Waldron, funny enough. But, you know, Carroll was under that regime, got Geno in, made Geno the best that he is. And I mean, you know, you don't have discussions I've read while we're on the show about Geno Smith's future of getting another starting gig without Pete Carroll.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, it's a conversation worth having. The question is, how serious of a candidate do you really think he is? And does he elevate himself above, like, let's say Ben Johnson, you know, because he's going to get a lot of demand. Say the Bears do lose out on him. They don't pay him enough or something like that, or they don't give him enough control. Say the consolidation and they don't want to do like a Mike Vrabel or something is Cliff Kingsbury. Does Pete Carroll give you more value than a Cliff Kingsbury or like a Cohen from Tampa Bay?
You'd have to say yes, because of
it's worth the debate. I think that it does, to me.
But here, I wanted to say,
here's the other threshold, Steve. Does Pete Carroll beat a Mike Vrabel in the proven winner track record?
Well, here's what I was going to say, because I'm kind of getting tired of seeing this. It seems like for every single person you listen to, they have to hire an offensive guy because the number one thing that people are talking about is the development of Caleb Williams, because you have something special and that's your number one priority. And I agree with this and I don't agree with this. And here's why. The Bears are a mess on offense. They're a mess on defense. They're a mess on special teams for some of it. They are a mess from top to bottom with consistency. So what I'm hearing is you need some leadership for the whole team.
Yes.
So my argument is I would be ecstatic if they hired Ben Johnson. I would not be mad at that whatsoever. But if you brought in a Pete Carroll or a Mike Vrabel, I would also be ecstatic, more for Mike Vrabel than Pete Carroll, because I'm thinking of age and I'm thinking about this, I'm thinking about this. But would I still be happy with a Pete Carroll hire? Yes, but he's also been retired this year, but maybe he needs that to be revamped.
He did step away. Yeah.
Mentally, maybe he's just like, I need to step away. I want to get my juice back. Maybe, sometimes you spend at a place too long, and that's kind of maybe what happened, like, you know what? It's just time for me to just take a vacation here for a little bit. But I'd be more worried about Pete Carroll becoming a John Fox hire than Mike Vrabel. Exactly.
because of the age, that, well, sorry, not be the age, not only, don't want to sound ageist, that would be terrible, but because of, does he evolve with the league enough to get Caleb where he needs to be? I think some people would say yes, because again, I can point to the Geno Smith argument right away, and be like, well, Geno's considered a decent quarterback in this league now because of it. But again, like when you get to that area where it's like older quality, someone who's been from a different generation and, recent years were not as successful, that's where we get into. And I want to stress again, age part was probably that was a dumb way of starting that. But yeah.
But another knock on Pete Carroll is he also hired Shane Waldron as his OC.
And he did. But again, it's weird because like he hired Waldron. Waldron's considered with Pete the reason why Geno's at least looked at as a much better light and a much better quarterback talent than he was post New York. And yet here we are. Credit though, and this is what I should also add if we're talking the entire discussion, Geno Smith was a backup for several years under Pete Carroll before he got that starting nod. They took a gamble on Geno and it paid off. So this isn't like it was a 1 year and they threw him in there and it worked. Like Geno knew Carroll's system and knew what Carroll wanted before they went and started Geno Smith. So that's also what I have to put in, because without that context, you can also make it very easy to like say, oh, well, they just threw him in and it worked. No. Geno took it and stuck as a backup, kind of learned the system, and then won himself a contract through that. So I do have to add that, which then does actually deter the Pete Carroll argument a little bit, because then it's like, well, does he get in there right away with Caleb and make things work? Tough to say.
Yeah, but I just feel like, what I get frustrated with, and I hope I say this correctly, there's more issues going on than just the development of Caleb Williams. Yes, that is highly important. But if Ben Johnson can come in and have his fingerprints everywhere and get it going, and you're convinced of that, awesome.
Yeah.
We've seen Mike Vrabel do it. You've seen Pete Carroll do it. So that's where it comes down to management and everything. What is the most important thing? Can you get a guy in that can be a head coach and organize the team, and also get Caleb Williams developed? Then you do that, in my opinion. Because what also scares me is Ben Johnson would have the play calling duties for offense, which would be awesome. But it's then make sure that he hires good enough guys on the defensive side to get things going. And because when you're solely focused on just the offensive side and things are going wrong on the defensive side, are you going to be able to go in there and help fix it? So there's a lot of questions, and there's a lot of answers to these questions that people have. I'm just getting kind of tired of hearing they have to hire an offensive guy. They have to hire an offensive guy for the development of Caleb Williams. The track record for the Bears when they hire just an offensive guy, it doesn't always end up well. I know with Matt Nagy, we had our lovely 2018 season. Then we go 8-8, I believe, and make the playoffs. I think it was that Nickelodeon playoff, and Mitch Trubisky actually won like the valuable player, even though they lost and played well. I'm not saying you hire a defensive guy. I keep leaning towards you need a head coach. You need a head coach to fix these things. But again, I would not be mad about the Ben Johnson hire. I'd be ecstatic because I'd almost feel like they got it right.
Yeah.
If you hire Mike Vrabel, I'd be ecstatic because you got it right.
I think what's going to happen is I think Carroll's going to be now one of those coaches that will get interest from a lot of places as a plug and play stability man. And I think he will get an interview. I think Chicago, much like I talk with Vrabel and everyone else, I mean, put anyone and everybody in an interview conversation. Screw it. Why not? Like, I mean, again, I know that we can go the John Fox route, but F it. Proven track record. If we want to at least listen to both schools of thought, and if we want to listen to Mike Vrabel, quite frankly, Pete Carroll, I say screw it. Why not? He's had a year off. He still is, and it's not like we talk about how John Fox was like definitely looked like he was back end of his career. I'm about done with this. How Pete Carroll is. Dude's a freaking like guy that looks 20 years younger than he actually is at times.
Mhm.
So I don't know.
He has energy on
I
the
think
sideline.
I think he gets an interview. I just don't think he's going to be the man they pick because I don't know. I feel like the discussion on can he avoid being like that John Fox hire is going to probably outweigh everything.
Right. I agree. I was thinking about that in the back of my head of John Fox had a track record. I think Pete Carroll's track record is better.
Before he got, John Fox, before he got hired, he was a Super Bowl, two-time coach that got to the Super Bowl with two different teams and with Peyton Manning. People thought that they were crazy to move on from John Fox then to Gary Kubiak. And yet, which team is the one that went to the Super Bowl? It wasn't the one with Fox again. Kubiak got the ring later on in his career.
Right. So that's the part that scares me is that will this be like a John Fox all over again?
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like Pete Carroll has more energy than John Fox. John Fox was kind of like,
oh, without a doubt. That's why I bring that comp up. Like, clearly, one is much more arguably could avoid what the John Fox like lame duck end of career coaching thing is.
right. I do think you have to get somebody. No offense to his age. I just think you have to look at some of these younger coaches that can command and be a head coach and these things.
How about here's the better one. How about a more modern NFL mind?
Right. So you're looking at that's why Vrabel, Ben Johnson with Kingsbury and Flores come up because they are more into today's NFL. And maybe that's why Pete Carroll took a year off. Maybe he's like, I've been at a place too long. Let me take a year off to see how the NFL is adapting. I've been a football coach my entire life. That's all I've done. I can adapt to this. And that's why he's throwing his name back in. But I think also Pete Carroll's throwing his name in because he's not going to go to a rebuild. Like the Bears, they're not quite a rebuild, but they're kind of like they need some stability here. But I think he's looking at the roster going, hey, we beef some of this up. They've got some of this talent. Like they are a win now. So I think that's why he's throwing his name in. I think that's why it's reported that Ben Johnson would talk to the Bears because he's looking at that. Cliff Kingsbury, probably the same way. I'm kind of surprised Mike Vrabel's name isn't thrown around more. And I just don't know why. I know at the end it wasn't good, but you can't. I would take those 2 years that Tennessee had and put them with the Bears and put them in that spot.
I have a thought about this. I think part of it is I think a lot of people don't realize that he is in Cleveland, but I also feel like it's because of how much a train wreck this year in Cleveland's been. Which a lot of it's out of his control. But like, remember, he was brought in as an assistant to help with the coaching staff. So I don't know. Maybe that's part of it where it's like, well, he hasn't been like on the up lately. Like all Carroll did was he had a down year where they finished 9-8, didn't make the playoffs last year. And they said, yeah, we need to get younger. See you later, buddy. In what was last season being the NFC West, I mean, keep in mind, you had one of the tougher divisions. Like they finished 9-8, Rams finish, 10-7. And then you have a San Francisco team that went to the Super Bowl and was one overtime period away from getting a championship. So like, that's what they're doing is like, yeah, we just need another step up.
Right.
So
it's all interesting. And that's why I want to get to the offseason so I can see what happens and how it all unfolds.
Yeah.
As much as the Bears are a mess, it's a destination right now for head coaches if they feel like they can come in and fix it.
Well, I think Caleb is a very attractive prospect for people to bring in. And I think more so than the last two quarterbacks the Bears have had that have been people to bring in. But I also feel like a lot of coaches now in the league, maybe they haven't said it, but like, I think the NFL circles realize how how like poor coached this team was. Yes. And that they can go, yeah, I could probably easily come in and coach this thing to a playoff record.
Right.
if I had my touch on it, which is probably what Pete Carroll feels like. He's probably like, hey, this roster, like, sign me the freaking hell up. Like, I would love to step in and take over this roster. Like, imagine the staff he could bring in just from his name alone.
Right.
You know, and then going, hey, any level of competency on the sideline, and we could probably have wins this year. Like Pete Carroll, if he was the coach this year, guarantee you we would have at least gotten to 500 record.
Oh, for sure. With all
Like
the
we would be 9-8, 10-7, like I predicted,
right.
with him on the sideline. So that's, I think, why this conversation's fascinating. And like his name's all of a sudden here. It's like, wait a minute, what the hell? And then you're like, huh. Well, I mean, if we lose out on Ben Johnson, and you know, he was 9-8 last time in a really tough NFC West, man, you start talking yourself a little bit into it. You know, you're maybe not your first choice, but you're like, you know, if that's the consolidation, I have to compete with, like, do I like Cliff Kingsbury versus Pete? You know, or maybe like Pete brings in a guy like a Cliff Kingsbury or someone that's like, I need that next step in my OC journey. Like, that's where I start getting in my head where I'm like, if Ben Johnson's not there, then I start talking like, okay, Pete's kind of a viable, you know? So he's going to be out there. He's going to get interviews. Like Pete Carroll is a name.
Sure.
You know, he will. I almost guarantee, unlike Bill Belichick's like end with how that went, I think Pete Carroll's a much more desirable aged coach where he will be on a sideline next year somewhere.
Mm-hmm. And I think he did it because he's probably really interested in the Bears job. And I also think he did it because if he doesn't get it, it shows NFL teams like, oh, he wants to come back. So he's doing it for both reasons. Like it's a win-win where, oh, maybe I can get this Bears job with this roster. And I feel like I'm the guy that could help compete for a playoff spot. Or it shows other NFL teams, if there's another good job that opens up, that I'm serious and let's get this done.
Yeah. Pete Carroll's going to be a name to watch out for. Stay tuned.
Sure. Stay tuned. Well, I think we did it. I think we did it.
Yeah. Talk about a catch-up, man. It's one of our longer ones, but it's been a little longer since we've talked. So,
Sure.
It's time. By the way, random thing while we're talking, if for those listening in the now, maybe you might want to flip to ESPN. Good bowl game right now. Pitt and Toledo. Double overtime, 37-all right now.
I had the Toledo tight ends coach on my podcast during the summer, so rooting for them.
Nice. And Toledo just went up by 3. They have to hold Pitt to a field goal, otherwise they'll lose. So,
no offense to
field goal
Pittsburgh.
or stop them. So.
No offense to Pitt, but kind of rooting for Toledo in that one. Because I had their tight ends coach on. Come on.
Yeah.
Come on, I have to.
You got to. It would be almost insulting if you didn't.
Right. And because he coached with Mike Leach for a year. So
well, of course.
I guess to end with a funny story, I said, because this is this coach's second time at Toledo. And he said when he interviewed with Mike Leach at Washington State, he was like the wide receivers coach. So Mike Leach brought him in. He's like, this is how the interview went. He's like, all right, put up your film. Tell me how you coach the receivers right now. Go. I want to learn what you guys are doing here.
Oh, shoot. Okay.
So he's going for like an hour or so, like going about this, and this. I guess at the end, Mike Leach looked down and goes, all right, I'm going to hire you. But if you ever fucking tell my receivers that it's 1 eye or 2 eye, you're fired. And that's how it went.
Oh, that's funny.
Just a good Mike Leach story for you.
There's tons of them. He's gone too soon. That's all I can say.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, that wraps up Bear Down. Sure, we'll be back on to talk about them. Not tonight. Everybody watch the game, do whatever. But we'll be back on to talk about the final game versus the Packers.
Actually, go check out the game. It should be kicking off a few minutes from now. So
I thought, is it on at 7:15?
Oh, sorry, my clock's off. I forgot. I still have my clock on Eastern time here. So you got 2 hours. Get ready for the game. Go make yourself dinner or something. I don't know.
Get yourself in the right mindset to watch this shit show of a game that we're about to partake on. Oh, I guess to end it is, how dumb are the NFL to let teams play on a Monday or a Sunday, Thursday, like whatever it is.
Talk about milking the audience this week, right? Freaking Christmas, Thursday night football, Monday night football, Saturday they've got a triple header on NFL Network. And yeah, it's late year NFL schedule, but like Jesus Christ, I didn't realize how much like putting another day on the calendar is like, it's, dare I say, overkill?
But kind of like the McCaskies, there's only one thing that the NFL people care about: money.
Oh yes,
That's all they care about is money.
you know what I'm looking forward to, and I'm wondering if this will turn out right. So LeBron James just yesterday said that the NFL's not taking our day. It's NBA's day is Christmas. Watch these ratings come back, and it'll be like one of those like memes where like freezing cold takes will put that up, and then it'll just be the ratings where it'll say like somehow
LeBron James,
yeah.
LeBron James, stick to your Diddy parties.
I mean, hey, look, they had Diddy parties. I mean, look, they beat the Warriors in a good game on Christmas Day. You know,
LeBron James is not wrong. Christmas used to be NBA. I remember when I used to watch NBA, watching it on Christmas Day. Yes, it was awesome. But the NBA ratings have tanked. It's not as exciting anymore. People might, and football was never really on Christmas. I think the NFL was like, oh, look at all the people watching on Thanksgiving Day. Let's try it on. And they used to play on New Year's, depending on when it fell. Like sometimes that would happen. So I guarantee they were like, oh, I wonder what would happen if we put it on Netflix and on Christmas.
Bring back physicality in the NBA, and I think that solves so many problems. Call us fouls to me. The three-pointer's not going away. Call us fouls. Make these guys fight for it more. You know, it's not going to, there are ways to avoid going back to the malice at the palace.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to call it on soft fouls. You can allow aggression back into the game. There are ways to do these things where you don't get fans fighting with players again. That's the only reason this is happening, and it's been getting worse since then.
There's other reasons why it's tanked, but I'm not going to get political.
Yeah, I don't want to get into political parts. I'll go with the three-pointer and physicality. That's it.
Well, let me rephrase it.
I also argue that I think the rise of women's basketball in recent years, with being a more technical and basketball mechanics product first, I think is interesting people over lobbing shots.
Yeah, and I will say it this way without getting political. It started with the three-point line and started with all the fouls called. I think that's where this started.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just kind of other reasons have put into effect of why it's tanked.
Yeah.
And I pay attention to the Bulls a little bit. I kind of stopped watching it when Kobe Bryant stopped because I saw the way the NBA was going with how soft it was. And then I kind of just faded.
People hated James Harden when he got the MVP because that was what he'd lean into. But I mean, hey, when the system's leaning in that favor, like, are you really going to ignore the best track to success that's being presented to you?
Right. Well, good way to end that. I had to bring that up.
Yeah.
So thanks, everybody. Like and subscribe. Check out Rumble, YouTube, Twitter. My Facebook account is suspended. I don't know why. I'm in jail.
Yeah, give it some time. You're on you're a timeout right now.
Yeah, I don't even know what I did. They won't tell me what I did. So me and Zuckerberg are going to have a cage match here soon because I can't figure it
out. Fight night. Get a promoter. Let's make this happen.
They don't have to pay me $22 million. Just pay me $3 million, and I'll fight Mike Zuckerberg for sure.
Nice,
for sure. All right, thanks everybody. We'll see you guys next time.